Well, hello.
Hello.
We are live today with another edition of Humoriso and our employee chat. Or what are we doing today?
We're talking about employees and discipline is what you told me.
We are, right.
And a little shout out, thank you for the comments on the various cups that I use each time we get together. I will try to be mindful of that. A little C-3PO action today. There we go. A little Star Wars love. So
Awesome.
nothing like discipline in Star Wars. There we go.
Yep. Cool. Well, let's talk discipline then.
Great.
Why, so discipline's a bit of a dirty word around some offices.
It's a very dirty word.
People tend to cringe a little bit when talking about discipline. Why even bother thinking about having a process? Why bother putting together a formal discipline process?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. So some organizations fear that word, I think. They don't want to come off like
Well, it's
the
negative.
bad guys.
Yeah.
It is. That's exactly right. It's very negative. The discipline by nature just sounds like you've done something wrong. I mean, some of that obviously comes back to just the way that we were raised, or what the home was like. Discipline always meant it was a consequence, a negative consequence. At the workplace, it's not any different, right? So I don't think we should be afraid of the fact that there's times that it's negative, that we have to address things that are wrong.
Sure.
I mean, I can be all HR legal for you if you want to be. If you want me to be.
Are we going there?
Sure. I mean, HR legal is, you got to grow up a little bit, and there are things that people do that are wrong, and you need to have protection around that. You've got to have a process for kind of moving people through discipline. Lawyers are certainly going to look for what are the policies, what are the procedures. I know we've talked about handbooks a couple of times before, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of that plays into it. What's the point of having a handbook if no one ever enforces it? Right? We have an attendance policy, but just come and go as you please. Why have an attendance policy?
Right.
And then you can't all of a sudden get mad at someone that you don't like, who takes advantage of the fact that they can come and go as they please, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to make sure we have a policy, but someone's got to kind of enforce those rules and,
Yes.
and policies. Otherwise, things will go a little haywire.
Correct. Yeah.
Back to the word itself,
Yeah.
discipline. What, as an HR director or manager, you bring the word discipline to the organization, and what's the impact on culture? I mean, what does that look like from the HR side of the house?
So culture, that can be a tough one. Number one, we're making a great assumption that places are considerate of their culture. Very sorry if that offends anybody, but there are companies that don't care about culture.
Right.
It doesn't mean they don't have one. It just means that they're not sort of forthright about where they want it to go. But for some organizations, discipline sounds antithetical to the vibe that you want to have at the company, right? So I walk into organizations and they're skateboarding, down the row of desks, and for real. And so there's, they have their helmets on, and there's red light and green light stop signs, and hey, we got a cool place, and there's beer in the fridge all the time, and we don't have discipline until there's an issue, right?
Okay.
Until something happens, and then it's like, no, they ruined it all. I think you've got to be smart about the fact that, look, this is a part of culture, and so I'll give a great example. When you work out, it isn't necessarily because everyone who does so loves it, right?
Right.
You do it because there is a result that you're looking for,
Sure.
right? Fair?
Yeah.
So whether that's just, a better physique, losing weight, working on your if you've got heart issues or lung issues
Beach
and you want to
body.
strengthen that,
Yeah.
beach body, of course, yes, which is what you live for. Thank you very much for that. That kind of thing comes from discipline.
Right.
And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative result. It might be negative at the moment. You might, when that alarm goes off at 5 a.m, right, to get up to work out, you're like, oh, I hate this.
Right.
But the result is what you're going after. I think it's got to be the same kind of conversation when it comes to discipline in the workplace.
I agree. I think discipline should be thought of more of as a structure for the workplace rather than a ruler or slap.
Right. Listen,
Some cases.
early on, I went to Catholic school in Philadelphia. Woo! And discipline was always punitive, right? It wasn't necessarily about affirmational correctiveness. I have to address this with you today because I know that you're better than this. I know there's something more for you to go towards. That's not how it was. It was punitive. It was, you forged your mother's signature on this report card. Something like that. For example.
Did you though?
Moving on.
Okay. Anyways, so in starting the process, we see some red flags. Maybe there's folks skateboarding on the desk and drinking the keg in the middle of the day. You gave them those tools to do so, but where do I even begin? I mean, how do I create this process of accountability, and what's my first step?
Well, I think first step is an organization has to decide what they care about, both from the law, right? Some things you have to care about: harassment, discrimination, privacy, HIPAA, all the letters, the alphabet soup. An organization has to decide to care about that, as well as decide to implement policy that is in keeping with the vibe of the company. Now, if you really are a company that you can come and go as you please as long as the work gets done, that's okay. But if you're not, then you've got to start to say, this matters. We don't want people to take off 4 weeks at a time and we don't know where they are. We've got to have some framework. So just sit down and sketch some of that out. Again, that will overlap into probably a handbook kind of conversation.
Right.
But once you have that, you've got to sit with managers, supervisors, directors, and just work through it and say, here's what we're thinking. Here's where we're moving. Here's what matters to us. And we need you, as an extension of the core executive team, to sort of help us establish this vibe.
Okay, well that makes sense.
It's a very simple conversation.
Good jumping off point.
Right? It doesn't need to be anything crazy. You don't have to sit down for 4 hours with, Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint. Just have a conversation to start with. Here's why these things matter to us.
Right.
Have some back and forth. It doesn't mean that you'll change your mind, but your leadership in whatever levels has to understand why it matters, because I think they'll have an easier time enforcing it once you put it into place.
Got it. Great.
Yep.
So putting pen to paper is the first step, getting your goals all written down, and then it should kind of flow from there once you kind of have your goals in mind and the right folks on board to talk through it. So I think that's pretty much it for our discipline chat today.
Great.
Anything else you wanted to add?
I think we'll probably need to talk a little further about discipline in the future, though, because I think there's some practicality around what does a good process look like? Like, what are the steps? When does it matter? When do you write things down? When do you just tell somebody, stop screwing up? So there's probably more to talk about.
Well, we'll do that now. We'll follow up. Check us out next time for JB's new cup. We will have some application for you in the discipline space. And happy Thursday.
See y'all. Take care.